G'day punters and welcome back to another episode of AFL Unpopular Opinions. We've done it. D-Day is upon us. The grand final is almost here and we're a man down, at least for the start of this segment. Alastair Lynch is whining and dining down in Melbourne once again. But alas, I've got Jack Lindley and Tom Rockliff here joining me, fellas. How are we?
I'd just say Rocky's sleeping over at Buck's place.
Well, I'd assume he's at Buckley's house because all reports are that it's Nathan's job and he's decided to give it to him. So I don't know if it's an open and closed case, but I don't think Lynch is not here, so he's probably not going to hear this and he doesn't listen to it. But it's a bit of strife not getting up.
Big strife.
Full stop. So that stadium report didn't do it any favours. And anyway, moving on, we've got a grand final to talk about. Looking forward to that. Obviously, Brisbane snuck through and unfortunately for you, Ryan, your Hawks couldn't get it done.
Yes, tough Friday night for me. We might talk about that a little bit later. We're going to dive into some betting though, which we haven't really done for a little while. Forever, yeah. Plenty of markets to jump into, but we are recording this on a Monday. Brownlow night is upon us. And we're going to just start with who we each think is going to win this thing because it's become very tough to predict over the years. Nick Dacos, I'll let you run through the numbers here, Jack, for the odds.
So we got Dacos is a hot favourite at $2.50. He's finished second and third the last 2 years, so he's polled well. Did break the record last year only to lose to Cripper. Then next favourite is Bailey Smith. He's at $4.75. Jordan Dawson, a lot said about him this season, $6.50. Then we got the two Suns players. We got Noah Anderson at $7. Matty Rao at $12. Rao did poll better than him last season, so we'll see what the umpires think this year. Then we got the big contract boy, Nazir Wanganing Milra at 41, so we drop off a bit in the odds here. We got Tom Green at 51, Caleb Sarong at 51 also, and then local boy Hugh McCluggage at 67s.
Rocky, do you want to kick us off here, mate?
Well, I think Dacos is obviously the favourite for a reason. He polls well. He noticed that the umpires notice him. He burst away. So I think if you look outside of him, if you're looking outside for a play, I don't know. I sort of want to skip Bailey Smith. I think he missed a couple, so it may hurt him in the end.
Missed 3 games.
And Holmes will also take some votes off him. So it's down to... See, I like Dawson, but he did have a quiet period there as well. And then Matty Rao and Anderson, I'm sort of chopping and changing. As you said, it's a tricky little market to predict. So outside of Dacos, if you're looking for value, I think the play at 12-1 is Matty Rao. As you said, he polls very well. He polled 25 or something last year. He's had a sensational season. Anderson will poll 3s as well, but it's just whether the umpires lean towards Rao more. I think Anderson had a fantastic year last year as well, and he only got half the amount of votes. So the issue is they're going to take votes off each other, but I think the play outside is Matty Rao. And then if you really want to get adventurous and really exotic for a real outside, I think McCluggage at 67. I think he's had his best year as an inside midfielder, All-Australian for the first time. I don't think Lachie Neale will take votes off him, as we've seen. So McCluggage may be the play at 67-1.
They've actually got Will Ashcroft as the second highest favourite for Brisbane ahead of Lachie Neale this season. So
over your boy Zorko.
Zorko, who did poll 12 votes last season.
Well, we did see Lachie Neale not poll as well last year as we predicted going into it. He normally polled really well. So I have a feeling McCluggage might be his year to rock it up there. And I know we're only talking win at this point, but he may be worth a little flutter at 8s for a top 5.
I think Dunkley could poll well towards the end of the season as well. I'm going to go with Bailey Smith. I hear what you're saying, Rocky, about him missing a few games, but averaging 30 touches, he's been kicking goals this year, and the AFL just loves a story, and this would be the story. All the mental health stuff he's been through, it's been well documented. I'm going to take the $4.75, but looking at the market, I do agree. I think Rao's the one that's over the odds, and I think Caleb Sarong at 51 there's a lot of juice in that too.
I've got my eye on Sarong. He polled 28 votes last season. Really, there's not many people taking votes off him at Freo. You got Brayshaw there. Otherwise, they've had a pretty solid season, and there wasn't many points between, first and ninth in the comp. So you're not having a team winning 5 more games than anyone else. So I think it's going to be a tight one. Outside of Nick Dacos, I like Caleb Sarong. Do the umpires like Bailey Smith?
I tell you what the market is. Who's his date? That's what I want to know. There's been a bit of talk about, I think, Tammy, is she going down? I think she's gone a bit cold. We've seen
it's off, isn't it?
We've seen him venture up to the Gold Coast somewhat. So who's his date? Is he taking his mum or someone like that? It might be his mum. I'm hearing there's a line of about 50 that could have been for Bailey Smith. But, I hear what you're saying as well there, Ryan. So intriguing night.
Maybe he takes that photographer from the...
We'll leave that in. That's staying in.
I mean, he's got a plethora of options, and he's got a lot of people he's got to say sorry to this year. He's had to do it numerous times. So whether he takes someone that he owes an apology to, it's not a bad play, Jack. So
yeah, and what variety of beers he's on, we'll leave that up to interpretation.
Well, surely not on a Monday night going into a grand final. I mean, next Monday they may be very different, but...
one club we haven't really spoken about there, GWS, we were talking before we started recording. I think Finn Callaghan could be a player in the top 10 market. I'll get you to read the odds in a sec, Jack, but Tom Green's very short in that, and I just feel like Callaghan's potentially had a better year than him. Yeah. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Yeah, well, Lynchy sees him up close every week, and he said how good of a year he's had. So being there live, if you see the impact, and he normally has that, he's the burst away which the umpires catch, their eyes catch. So it's a good play.
He's definitely a big moments player. Whether or not he polls week in, week out is another question, but he's at 6s. To finish in the top 10 of voting. Other interesting ones there is McCluggage. You can get $1.80 for him. Mm-hmm. That looks good value. Ed Richards, who Rockies like this season, you can get him for $5 to finish in the top 10. And Max Holmes at $2, which is another interesting one.
And then we look at the top 20 market. I think the Hawthorn vote getters are going to be interesting too. Jai Newcomb, $4 to finish top 20. And then scrolling down, the only other name in the brown and gold is Jarman Impey at $26. I think Newcomb's going to poll very, very well as well, as he did last year. I've got the numbers in front of me somewhere. But any top 20 plays before we move on from Brownlow betting?
Well, the top 20 plays potentially, I know that there's one ruckman that stands out, but we all agreed that Brodie Grundy had a 8 or 9 week period that was sensational, where he potentially gets a lot of best on grounds. At 3-1 to finish top 20, I think it's a good outside play, bit of value if you're searching around for something in that top 20. He may slide in an 18th or 19th.
Yeah, and you can poll 24 votes last year too. He's
that's a good play
in the top
as well.
10, yeah.
So he's 4-1?
Yeah, good value. Anything from you, Jack?
Just staying on the ruckman, Trishan Cherry's at $6 as well. If North get any votes, they're probably going to him other than the Cheezel game. So $6 might be worth a flutter there.
Nice. All right, let's look ahead to the grand final on Saturday. Norm Smith's almost just as tough to predict as the Brownlow. Rocky, you hinted at Bailey Smith in the group chat on the weekend. Is that dead serious or no?
No, wrong Smith. Wrong Bailey.
Wrong
Bailey?
Went
with the other Bailey. I went with Zach Bailey.
Zach Bailey, okay.
I had a dream about him on Saturday night, so I've been on fire this year.
What type of dream was that?
It wasn't. It was a dry one. It was a dry one. 19-1. I had a dream that he kicked 5 goals. I think he's had an exceptional finals campaign, and for me, I don't think Lachie Neale plays. I know that if anyone could potentially do it, it's probably him. He's played through a hamstring this year. He's played through a quad. He's not worth the risk of taking in. So it means that Zach Bailey's minutes in the midfield go up, but he can also hit the scoreboard as well. So I think Lohman started the game really, really well last year in the grand final. Bailey got involved as well. We're seeing that Ashcroft ended up winning the medal. Could have gone to Lachie as well. I think Zach Bailey's in for a massive grand final, and I think Brisbane, obviously the loyalties lie there. I think they'll get the job done, and if they are, I think Zach Bailey's going to have a massive game. And at 19-1, I think he's the Bailey for me.
I like that pick, especially if he's getting minutes in the midfield. Traditionally, the voters have looked at players through the middle that also impact the scoring. That's why I like Patrick Dangerfield. After that prelim performance, it's hard to go past him. He's at $8. He's third favourite on here behind Bailey Smith and Max Holmes. But if he plays anything like he did in that prelim, he's a shoe-in for the Norm Smith. And just the storylines around him, he's just...
You must have been sitting there at halftime going, we're a good chance here, and then Dangerfield rolls out in the third quarter and just tears it apart and finishes you in a quick minute.
I haven't actually watched Sam Mitchell's post-game to see what he said, but it felt like this is the first time in a while that he hasn't really adjusted or moved the magnets like he normally does so well to allow, like, what is he, 35 years old? Older than that, to kick goals on us and just dominate up forward. I mean, Jeremy Cameron did nothing really until the second half. So, we were in a good spot. But that's what Dangerfield does. That's what makes him one of the greats. So
he said that he wants Dangerfield to retire. He's ready for Dangerfield to retire. That was part of it. But I agree that they had no answers for him, and you don't often see that, particularly with the Hawthorn who are willing to throw the magnets around, whether it be a Sisley or Sisley was on him at certain points as well. But that was one of the great finals games you'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to go with McCluggage in the Norm Smith market. We might ask Lynchy when he comes on about, what sort of role he plays in this game. But you look back at the stats against Geelong twice this year. He had 30 touches in round 3, but then the Cats held him very quiet in the qualifying final. So it's going to be interesting to see.
He's not going to get an inch of space.
He's going
to get the hard tag. We've seen him do it in the qualifying final, and they dominated him. And then McCluggage, he's rolled out and had 37 on the weekend. Absolutely tall Collingwood, a new one.
Yeah, Steele went to him on the weekend, but he was just a bit too old.
Yeah, they were just trying to play a different role. I mean, side bottom starts on Zorko at the centre square bounce and then tries to roll up to McCluggage. Just didn't work. Again, that they didn't get it right. McCluggage broke the game open, and there's no way Geelong are going to allow him to run around. So he'll get the heavy tag. We've seen him do that the last couple of weeks, Geelong, and perform those roles really well. It's not normally it wasn't on the weekend. Geelong didn't go after necessarily the hard inside. They went against the ones at the impact, the scoreboard impact, and McCluggage is that for the line. So, I mean, at 12-1, if he can break it, it'll be exceptional.
You're talking me out of it here.
Well, I just can't see. They won't allow him to get any space. Yeah. He's a very, very good player, and he'll fight through it. But I can't see him having a big 30-pluser. I think he'll be restrained.
There you go, punters. Don't listen to me. Let's look at
you watch him win it, man. You watch him win it.
Let's look at first goal kicker. I mean, this is always a dartboard. Take your pick. Who you guys? I'll let you run through the numbers first, Jack. Give us some odds.
Just give me a moment. Here we go. All right, we got Jezza Cameron, easy favourite there. He's at $8. He kicked the first goal of the qualifying final against Brisbane, so there's a bit of an omen there. Then we got the young fella up top for Brisbane, Logan Morris, an outstanding year, the leading goal scorer for the Lions. He's at $9. Big fella Shannon Neale at 11s, Paddy Dangerfield 11s, also Tyson Stengel 11s, and then we have all the small forwards for Brisbane. We got Rayner, Bailey and Lohman all at 12s, Charlie Cameron at 13s. He's shown a bit of spark in the last couple of weeks, but Rocky's been off him most of the season. The one I'm interested in is Ty Gallup at 16s. Last couple of games, he's been outstanding. He's only played 5 senior games, and he's stepped up something fierce. He's got vice grips, and he can find a goal. I like him at 16s. What about you guys?
I'll go Will Ashcroft a little bit further down, $29. Loves a big stage. Think he could be a sneaky value play there.
I'm doing it.
Here we go.
Charlie Cameron.
Yeah.
Charlie Cameron.
I've ridden him all year with good reason, in my opinion. He hasn't performed at the level that we know. I think he's going to spark early. I think he might kick the first goal. So I have ridden him all year, but I reckon we might see the celebration early on. So I think it'll be one of those smalls for Brisbane. Geelong will probably end up kicking it, but I think it'll come to ground and it'll be a roving Charlie Cameron sort of snap around the corner, a dribbler through for a goal there. But the value, I don't know if there's a market for it. There would be, I'm sure, as you go deeper into it. But the third quarter, Cam Rayner, his second halves are unbelievable.
This is a great shout.
So whether you can get him for the first goal of the third quarter, first goal of the last quarter, he's he's most likely, if you can back him to kick 3 goals in the second half or the like, he is a second half specialist. We know he was sick going into the weekend. Those 2 that I've ridden all year and asked for a spark for, I'm going to back him in on grand final day. Cameron to kick the first goal, and then Rayner first goal of the third and the last.
Even like a tackles market would be good. I don't know if we do it, but 6+ tackles or something, that would be worth getting on.
Well, Dunkley, I mean, if there is a tackles market, I'm sure there is something out there. I know there's definitely disposals, maybe not tackles, but he's going to have 10 plus again.
Yeah.
And then obviously the tag as well. So one of those taggers for Geelong, Atkins or the like, get it done.
Anything else you guys fancy before we bring in the great man?
No. Who's your pick, I guess?
Yeah, well...
Margin and why?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Geelong 1-39. I just feel like the amount of games Brisbane's played is going to catch up to them. That's my reason why.
Yeah, so I'm also on the Cats here. I'll take the 139 as well. But, they've just positioned themselves brilliantly at the end of the season here. They're poised to win this game, I think. Other than Tom Stewart, they're pretty healthy, and Brisbane are dealing with quite a few injuries at the moment. So I think it's one step too far for Brisbane, but Cats 1-39.
We seen them do it last year, didn't we, Brisbane? Yeah. They did it tough through the finals and then went bang in the grand final. So hopefully it's a close one because we've had a few blowouts. I'm going to go Brisbane by 27, so I don't know if there is an exact. But
we would have that
exact somewhere. I was just having a quick scroll. So winning margin, Brisbane 1-39. You can get it at 305, but 27 points for me. So I think they'll, get it done and get it done reasonably convincing.
We might dig up a price for that one when we come back. We'll take a quick break. We'll bring in Lynchy. He can give us his thoughts on the Lions.
I got you a price right here.
Here we go.
Brisbane Lions by 27 points, 101.
Ooh, juice. Full of juice.
Jump on.
One last fill up for the Neds punters.
He doesn't miss our man. He's been tipping up a storm this year. Let's take a break. We'll be back. Welcome back to AFL Unpopular Opinions. The great man, Alastair Lynch, joins us from Melbourne. He's got his beloved NFL right there behind him. He's locked in. Look at him. Across multiple sports. How you going, Lynchy?
Great. Yeah, no, very good. After a how good was that weekend of footy? I mean, the crowds, nearly 200,000 going to the games, and for the Brisbane supporters, a good result. Collingwood. Well, I was sitting in front of a Collingwood Bay, it was fair to say, and their feedback. And apparently it was my fault about the umpiring decisions. So I got plenty of feedback on that in that respect. But a great day for Brisbane, and certainly a great day for Geelong.
Any of that feedback you care to share? Because Rocky's social media has been lighting up since he announced that Pendle should be dropped a few weeks ago. Any mail for you?
No, not really. It was some of the stuff that couldn't go to air, but I tried to assure him it wasn't my fault. And but I imagine, Rocky, has it been as busy on the socials this week?
Oh, funnily enough, Lynchy, after that game, there was nothing. So there was plenty of feedback after the qualifying final. And yes, I just said that he looks a bit slower and can hurt them offensively, in my opinion. And it's my opinion. I'm not going to apologise for it, as Conor McGregor famously once said. Apologise to no one for nothing. But that's just my opinion of the way Collingwood play. And, of course, it's not like the calf injury that he sustained on the weekend is, well, it's not because of his age. It's obviously just part and parcel of it. And as you get older, you become more inclined to go down that way. But, there was certainly none of that, Lynchy, with him going down in the first quarter, and not ideal. Like, you would have loved to see him play and be there for Collingwood. But the funny thing out of those umpiring decisions, like, maybe it's bias. It was, in my opinion, a clean spoil on Jamie Elliott. It's one of those ones that could go either way. I thought he nailed the footy. I don't think he made contact. It was a really good defensive spoil. The one that gets me is the one that we spoke about, is the goal that they reviewed, the Mason Cox one. If that was
staggering.
If that was clear that it came off his boot, then I was watching something else.
No chance.
I thought it came off Harris Andrews' boot, and then they changed angles, and Mason Cox's boot was that far away from it when it looked like it brushed on the other angle. So I know that they were disappointed, Lynchy, and the feedback would have been quite strong coming over the fence, but it's part and parcel. It's good for the goose is good for the gander, and I thought it was much of a muchness. So they don't get that goal, they're not as close.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it didn't look like Cox got the kick. I thought the decision should be at least inconclusive, go with the umpire's call.
Soft call,
I thought the soft call. So I think that one. I probably disagree with you with Jamie Elliott. I think Starcevic did everything right, bar just at the end. He had his eyes on the ball. He got clean contact with the fist on the ball, so there wasn't an arm chop, but just the body hitting the front of Elliott. I thought it was a free kick. So I think he ticked a few boxes, but there was one big box that was missed, and that was front on contact. So I thought it was a free kick. So I actually agree with the Collingwood supporters in that respect. But they felt just been there were a few different ones.
Yeah, they've just been automatically paying those all season. I think that's the argument a lot of the Collingwood fans were making, that it is a soft free kick. It's like you can't spoil front on anymore. So
there's not a lot you can do, and I'm sure you turned around and told them you agreed with them, Lynch, and said that it should have been a free kick. But what about the perfect play to start the game for Collingwood? I was losing at home. It's straight down Nick Dacos's throat, who delivers it straight through Mason Cox's lap. Couldn't have been a better play.
Yeah, it was great.
It was fantastic. I mean, Mason would have said himself, we know how good he was a few years ago in the prelim, and just lucky it wasn't a bucket of shit. It would have been all over him, straight through the bread basket.
But that would have been, as you're saying, the perfect start. And because Harris is always going to drop off Mason Cox in that role that he plays, so you've got to hit up the target. So it would have been a perfect start for him. But it was compounded, that drop mark, with to lose any player, but to lose Pendlebury with that calf so early in the game just would put shudders through the medical department and the coaching staff of the Brisbane Lions going into this week's game, I would have thought.
Let's stay on injuries real quick. If you guys were in the doctor's room for the Brisbane Lions, are you rushing Lachie Neale back? What are you doing there?
No, I don't think so. We spoke about it a little bit in that punting segment of the first segment that Lynchy couldn't be here for, obviously with his role with Tasmania. Zach Bailey's output is just as good through the midfield. They've got options through the midfield that complement it. It's not worth taking the risk of losing a player that early in the game. In my opinion, I think Lockie's obviously a champion and we know what you're going to get from him. If there is one player in the competition that can push through it, it is going to be him. We've seen him play with a hand. I think he did his hamstring against Geelong down there earlier this year, continued to play. He's missed a quad and he recovers reasonably quickly. Calf. It's just not worth it in the biggest game of the year. I think we've seen teams do it in the past where they've tried to take injured players in. If they had another week. So you think back to Melbourne in the grand final that they played in. Stephen May did his hamstring in the prelim final, but he had the extra week. And I know that Lachie did his back in the qualifying final, but it's just too much on the big stage to lose, I think. And I think they've got options around it. McCluggage gets the heavy tag. Zach Bailey gets off the chain and wins it for Brisbane.
Would you take Berry then if he's already popped his shoulder twice now in the finals?
Depends. Because so obviously I had a lot of shoulders as well. If he can feel comfortable with it by Thursday or Friday, it's going to pop out until he has surgery, which he's going to have in a week's time anyway. If he can play through the pain, I think you would. He can potentially get him to play that defensive role on. Is it Dempsey? Who's the wingman that just goes straight towards goal? Just get him to play that role. Just get him to run with it. We've seen Cooper Cronk do it. It's very, very different sport, very different circumstances.
I often get those two confused.
But Cooper Cronk played and didn't touch the footy.
Cooper Cronk isn't taking balls above his head.
No, but I'm saying you're not going to ask Berry to do that. Just get him to play that defensive role so that Dempsey doesn't kick those goals and bob up. Just get him to do a run with it. Makes it a 17-on-17 out there. So he could potentially play that role. I think you got to take in fit players into a grand final. Lynchy was part of them more so than me, but Nigel Lappin, there's a few freaks that can pull it off. I think Lachie Neale's potentially, if you're going to pick one of the two, if you don't take both of them in.
And it's a different era now where there's a lot more caution around injuries. And I guess you wouldn't say Brisbane's window is exactly closing. Lachie could be looking ahead going, look, I've got a good chance of winning another flag here with the current list.
If he wants to stay in Brisbane.
That's the big if, isn't it? Are you in agreement with all of this, Lynchy?
It's a tough one. I think Rocky's point with Jared Berry having to deal with pain, he won't have pain because they'll block that out. They'll jab it up pre-game. They'll probably have to, maybe it's just in the captain's run, they'll just put him through a fitness test with injections and make sure it's functional. So I think the pain won't be an issue. It's just whether it pops out quickly. So they've got to give it a legitimate test, as they did with Nigel Lappin. So Nigel's gone into that training session down here in Melbourne with 2 broken ribs and was smashed. So Aaron Shattuck hit him. They handballed the ball to him above his head and told Aaron Shattuck to come in and hit his ribs as hard as he possibly can with a big shoulder tackle. And he did. And so they think that's where he actually punctured his lung. So they've got to do that with Jared to make sure it actually doesn't pop out there. So that's one.
His lung.
Not puncture his lung.
Drop a shoulder.
Well, they've got to test him. They've got to test him because you don't want him going out there and trying to lay a tackle on Ollie Dempsey and the shoulder pops out and he's gone. The difficult part will be with the Lachie Neale one, because I'd be staggered if he got over the line to play. But if he is given the clearance by the medical staff and he comes to the coach and says, I am right to go. I mean, what do you do there? You've got this highly respected superstar player that's been great for the club and he says, I am right. I just don't know how you can leave him out.
Well, Fags will pick him. We've seen the loyalty that Fags and he backs his players in, so I think he'll definitely pick him. But, I mean, they got to run it out, and we're assuming and guessing out here a lot about the whole scenario. From all reports, he did a massive session on Saturday, got through it, pulled up really, really well. If he trains really well this week, you have to pick him. You have to pick him.
Yeah.
Are you guys worried though that if he does play, he's obviously going to be a target for Geelong, and that?
Well, I mean, a calf is hard to target. How do you target it? You can't really go out there.
You just got to make him run. I guess.
I mean, if he plays a traditional centreman role, so if you go back to Lynch's era, which is 40, 50 odd years ago, and he plays that traditional centreman role. So the centreman role is he pretty much stays in the centre square and he's the link player for him. He could potentially do that because you're not asking him to get to the extreme parts of the ground. All you're doing, get from stoppage to stoppage and play in the corridor. Be that connector player for him, but also take away the corridor from Geelong. There's no reason why he can't play. But
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if he played. It's just that situation. If he says, I'm right to go, that's going to be a hard one for Chris Fagan to batter away. The feeling in the second half with the Jared Berry situation was that he'd be unavailable this week. Now, I know you push it right to the end, and my gut feel was, no, just put it back in, which went back in fairly quickly. Once they got him into the rooms, the shoulder went back in with assistance from the doctor. But I would think, strap it up and just go again. So I thought he'd be a chance. The soft tissue injuries are high risk.
Yeah. Especially Neale's come in off a previous injury with his quad and his groin, and he's only played maybe one game in the last 7 weeks, so a bit undercooked.
I think those calf ones can be a little bit, like we've seen this in the NBA and other sports, the calf one can lead to like an Achilles problem. Like it's a it's a difficult one to manage. For sure.
Just make sure. And for Berry, like once your shoulder starts sliding in and out, it just slides in and out. Yeah. So he'll be able to get to a point potentially in the grand final where he can just twist it and it'll pop back in, just go off and get re-strapped or get it injected again. So the other obviously injury story out of it, and Lynch's been calling for it for about 5 or 6 years, is the pre-grand final bye. So we see Tom Stewart get knocked out on Friday night and now he misses the grand final.
Yeah, and I think we've heard from the AFL over the weekend that the average time out of the game for concussion incidents this year has been 19 days. So like he mightn't be right to play, but the situation we've spoken about, and it's more than just a concussion, it's about sort of having the pinnacle of your game, grand final, the grand final, get people and players and fans whipped into a frenzy and the best prepared with the bye, but it also alleviates this issue. But we know if he ticks every box, you'd be so tempted, wouldn't you, to be looking at a legal route to get an injunction to play. Now, I know it's probably impossible, but this is the 12-day sideline is an arbitrary number that's plucked on the back of research as a protect all, basically. In the NFL, and you guys are big NFL supporters, in the NFL, there's a 5-point protocol but it has nothing to do with timing. But you've got to tick all these boxes, and then you're back. So like sometimes it's less than 7 days, sometimes it's more. But that might be the route. If he actually happens to be fit and well, they might look at that.
Well, that's the other thing as well, because there's concussions and there's concussions. There's being out cold and the head knock that he got. Obviously, it hit the ground reasonably hard. He had effects from it, but he could recover in 2 days from that. There's heavy ones that can take 6 weeks. We've seen that in the past. It takes a long period of time. But for this one, potentially, as Lynch is saying, like the whiteout rule of 12 days, he could be right now, but he can't.
But then there's
play.
that risk involved, like the flow-on effect. The first time you get knocked out, the second time it's far easier if you're going within a week.
Yeah, but
and there no symptoms there.
And Stewart's obviously lucky, but if this was me, I'd be going to try and play. I never played in one. I've never got there or played in a prelim final. You'd be doing everything in your power to try and play. And Tom Stewart's obviously played in a couple, so it's not. I mean, it still is. It's a grand final, and they don't come along all that often. But for players that have never played in it, you'd do everything. Like I look back at Matty Richardson that never got an opportunity. He would do anything to play in one.
Sure.
So I think there'd be. Yeah, it's an interesting scenario.
Going back to the incident itself, because Stewart grabbed his wrist, do you think that was him going, oh no, I've
100%.
concussed myself?
100%. He knew that he hit his
another
head.
injury here.
Hit his head on the ground.
You're saying he's milking it?
Not milking it, but just saying this is why I'm on the ground.
Yeah,
I think he was
disguising it.
Well, he was going to be reviewed straight away. He knew that his head had hit the ground, so he's gone, oh, I'm actually not that bad.
Yeah.
I've obviously been hit in the head, but I'm going to grab my wrist and give myself a chance here that, say, it's a wrist injury instead of a head injury, which I think also goes to the point that maybe it wasn't a massive concussion and potentially he would be right by Saturday 2:30 when the game starts. But
what about hypothetically if Hawthorn won that game, Mabi or Charles probably looking at a week?
We got 3.
Well, he's got 3.
It's 3.
Got 3.
Lynchy, you said in our group chat, if you were him, you'd bring out the lawyers. Do you think there was much malice in the tackle?
Oh no, I was referencing the Tom Stewart side of things.
Oh, okay, right. Yep.
But the same, you'd appeal it. You'd absolutely appeal it, and you'd sort of say there's mitigating circumstances because there was one of his teammates had Stewart by the ankles, which was the first tackle, and Marbior's just come over the top. So it's just, again, that discussion around it has to be 0 or 3. That just seems far too severe, and I think there's a case to get him off. But it's head contact, and so you're always in all sorts of strife. Yep. So in that situation, you understand why he's got the 3, but I'd be appealing it.
If I was Joel, I'd appeal it this week anyway, because I don't want to miss the first 3 weeks next year. And if he gets off, no one's even going to bat an eyelid because they're talking about the Brownlow medalist on Tuesday, talking about the grand final. They're not talking about a 3-week suspension down to 0. That will be the 15th media story on AFL.com. So challenge if I'm in for sure.
Yeah, the timing is great. All right, let's get to some predictions here, Lynchy. You've been down in Melbourne. You saw the Lions firsthand last week. Can they win this game?
Well, they can, but they've got to turn around the first final of this series where Geelong belted Brisbane. It's probably Brisbane's most disappointing game. But I reflect back, I can't remember whether it was, because I'm going a bit senile, whether it was 2002 or 2003, Collingwood cleaned us up in the first final and we had to meet them again in the grand final and got over the line with a win. Maybe it was 2003 when we got the good win. But so it can happen, and they would have learnt an enormous amount from that game. And one of the key players in that game, on the back of great pressure from Geelong, was Tom Stewart. He intercepted everything and just set up Geelong out of half-back. So Tom's not going to be there, but it'd be hard to tip. Tip Brisbane, but I will. I've stuck with them. They're still my favourites.
I think they'll get it done. I don't think they fear Geelong. They went down there, beat them earlier this year. We know that they got touched up in that first final, but their matchups were wrong. There's no way that Leicester starts on Jeremy Cameron, and he's had his
But he's always done a good job there.
Yeah, but I think grand final
in the past
they're going to go. They're going to go Harris Airdrie, so he doesn't get off the chain. You don't have Stewart there. Hugh McCluggage is going to be better prepared and know that a tag's coming his way. Zorko knows that there's going to be some attention. I think Brisbane are going to be better placed. I think they I think they felt like they were going to go down there and roll over the top of Geelong in that first final off the back of a really good win against Hawthorn. I think they may have felt like they just go down there, win that one, get up to the Gabba, have a home prelim. I think they'll be cherry ripe for this one. And I know that they're just hanging on. We've spoken about their injuries and stuff. Geelong had a really impressive performance on Friday night. Did they play their grand final on Friday night? Who knows? I think there's enough out of that game and lessons learned from Brisbane to go on to win this game.
I think Brisbane play really well as underdogs as well. And their whole season's been full of stories of redemption, bouncing back after losses. So they'll review that qualifying final against Geelong, and Fags will sprinkle his magic dust and say a few meaningful words, put a few videos on, and I think they'll be raring to go. So,
Rocky, do you see any chance that Leicester goes to Cameron? So I can see this happening at the start. I can just see, and knowing that the way Fags coaches and his support of his players, all in, most times it's worked. I can see him, Ryan Leicester, going straight to Jeremy Cameron at the start of the game.
So I look at the back six and who goes where. Starcevic, I think, has to go to Dangerfield.
Well, that's another discussion. So we'll go with that at the moment. I reckon that midfield first bounce is a different discussion as well.
So, I understand. Dangerfield potentially lines up there, but I think he goes to Danger. I would start Darcy Gard. I would take Leicester to Neale. I would start Harris Andrews on Cameron. I just wouldn't want Jezza to get up and going early in that game. So I think take him there, take him out of it. We've seen Jezza get up the ground as well, so Harris can potentially drop off into those dangerous holes. So I think Cameron. Harris Andrews will go to Cameron at the start. Yep. I think.
See, I'd be staggered if that happened, because like the size of Neale, if Neale gets Leicester or Gardner deep, you'd be very nervous in the coach's box for Brisbane. But I hear what you're saying, but I just feel that Fags, with what he typically does, he'll go in with Harris Andrews on Neale and Ryan Leicester. He'll back him in to have a better start than he did last time.
Yeah, like this is what is intriguing. And then obviously Geelong going to have those matchups. And then what do they do around the midfield? Do they bring Stanley back in? We know Brisbane are probably going to go the two ruckmen. It seems to have worked for them the last couple of weeks. So they'll try and stretch him down back. How does Geelong, do they put Blitzarves back or does he start in the middle? So it's going to be a fascinating first quarter.
There's a lot of things they could do for sure.
Yeah.
So Rocky, what about, so your part of the ground is the midfield. What if you were in the coach's box for Geelong? What's your starting midfield? And I'll preface that on the back of
you want Dangerfield.
What Dangerfield did on the weekend.
No, I would go with their start. I would go, depending who their ruckman is, but I would go Bailey Smith, Max Holmes and Atkins potentially, or whoever's going to run with McCluggage is probably in there and shutting him down. You don't want him to go start well, but I would go Holmes and Smith. I think Dangerfield, I know we've spoken about it at length, where's his best position if you want to win the game? Well, we've seen him in the midfield and forward. He can have the impact. I think if he come out of the goal square, kick the first goal, I think that would have more of an impact than him being in the middle. I think they can get the job done with Holmes and Smith in there, but potentially Atkins or whoever the run with is. Well, who would you conversely, who would Dunkley go to in your opinion? Who do you want Dunkley to shut down in this game? Smith or Holmes?
Can he run with Smith? I mean, it's probably Holmes. I mean, he can run as well. I mean, which is the tough thing. I don't think he will go for the Rao type lockdown. So, because I'd think that John go all in first bounce of Atkins, Smith and Dangerfield, and they'll be up against McCluggage, Dunkley, and I'd like to say I'd chuck Rayner in first bounce. Depending on if Neale's obviously in there if he's playing, but I'd put Rayner in to get started and just go all chips in.
Well, yeah, I think like Bailey has started in there as well, Zach Bailey, if he's not there. If Dangerfield starts in there, I think Dunkley, that's the matchup.
I'd love to see Rayner on Dangerfield. I reckon that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Two balls going at it.
The thing with it is, I think like we can sit here and you can make an argument for both teams really strongly, and we have been able to do that in the past, but we've seen those blowouts, and Brisbane got hold of Sydney last year. For whatever reason, I don't think there's going to be a blowout this year. I think it's going to be an arm wrestle for large chunks and then potentially open up in the second half. But there's mouth-watering contests everywhere you look. Like the kids, the Twin Towers, so you have Alastair, Lynch and Jonathan Brown when they're at their prime, and Brisbane are winning those grand finals of 01, 2, 3. You've got a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old kid playing key position posts for Brisbane and getting it done. You've got Gallup and Morris. Morris has kicked over 50 as a 20-year-old, which is off the charts for a key position player.
Yep.
Then Ty Gallup has played a handful of games, and he was almost Brisbane's most influential player when it counted on Saturday night in the prelim. It's incredible what their key posts are doing at that end of the ground.
And that's the difference between them and other teams. I think Craig McRae touched on that post-game, saying that Collingwood hopes they can find those role players that can step up. So that's why they're here again.
Well, and I know that the southern states are going to blow up about it, but we've mentioned it many times on this show about making sure your academies are really strong. So each club should nearly get an academy. Lynchy spoke about West Coast, get one, and that's how you get back up the ladder. Gallup's performing so well because of the academy that's in place in Queensland for Brisbane, and he's come on and really come on in leaps and bounds. This is what you can do with the right programs around these kids. The AFL's got the money. Build the programs, build the academies out so they're filtered around the competition. Everyone's got their own one, and you see the results. And I said on another podcast earlier this year that they're going to be potentially the two best key forwards in the competition by the end of the decade. Like, imagine coming up here in 3 or 4 years' time when Logan Morris is 24, 25 and Ty Gallup's 23, 24.
Yeah.
Like, how do you defend that? You can't.
There's no answer. No.
So
the major talking point out of that is, are you double invoicing for the same content going down another podcast?
No, I help out Will Schofield over in Perth. That's a love job. I get to wear the business attire there and promote the business there. So no fee for that one, but I give.
You can wear your hat if you stop charging us.
Well, I give good content everywhere this year. Lynch. I've been on besides Sydney. Besides my Sydney call, I haven't missed many.
The Rolex hasn't quite come out of the box yet, though, has it?
That's for off this podcast.
Yeah,
so that's for after hours. That's after dark. Yeah.
Lynchy, I'd like to get some insights off you based on your grand final experience in terms of where Brisbane are positioned at the moment coming in. This is their third in a row. They're going for back-to-back. What's the difference from, your initial grand final to when you've got that experience? How does it change in the preparation leading up? Especially flying in.
Well, there's a big change from the first year to the second year, because I think the first year, in my experience, was you weren't quite sure whether you're excited or nervous, and it's a combination of both, because you don't know what's happening, and then you've got the grand final parade, and such a big focus and such a different week. So you get to the next year, you know what's coming. But then for Brisbane to have won that premiership, so they know what works now. They trust each other. They trust the guidance of the club. So they'll come back down Wednesday. So they made that alteration last year to come down earlier. So they're very content and well prepared. So, and with the young kids that haven't played, like Gallup, for example, and Levi Ashcroft, they've got enough experience around them now to make sure that they're sort of pretty calm and prepared as well. So they've got no stress about the week ahead. You got the biggest trap you can get into in these sort of games is thinking about the end result. You think, oh, shit, I hope I have a good game, hope we don't lose, hope we win. When you're thinking about that, which is natural, that's when you get a bit anxious. But when you bring it back to what you actually do on the day, that's a lot easier. So they'll be well prepared and they'll be confident, even though they had that loss to Geelong a few weeks ago.
Do you have a little bit to do with Chris Fagan here and there? I know you talk sometimes. Yeah. Do you think this one might be more important to him than... I know getting the first flag's obviously the best, but what he's been through this year in terms of injuries, and what the clubs had to overcome, do you think this one could potentially be more important if they do win?
Yeah, well, I don't know whether that's more important. It'd be probably more satisfying. So there was a lot last year with his personal journey, having to go through the Hawthorn saga. So there was a lot of stress on him. This year, we've spoken many times, and he'd bristle at times, but even though they were in second spot, we didn't think they were playing well consistently. They'd have bursts. But the fact they've had so many injuries and had to bring young kids in to the team, and they've performed well. I think if he could get them over the line here and lose in the first final, this would be the most satisfying one. To get this one up and from being the underdogs, or it would be his most satisfying final series.
Yeah,
it's more pressure, I think. So the pressure to go out there and perform again, and we've seen it over the last couple of years. The premiers from the year before dropped right away. They've made it back to the big dance. They're a kick away from winning the first one, have a really convincing one, and then I think it'll mean more. As silly as that sounds, like it'll be more like, wow, we've climbed a mountain again when no one really gave us a chance. Because you think about the season last year, they sort of it was a throw at the stumps halfway through the year. They were down the bottom four, and then they just went on this magical run and September run as well. They would have thought they'd lost 3 or 4 times in the finals campaign and then go on to win it. So I think this would be satisfying for different reasons.
For injuries and those young kids that you spoke about before, Logan Morris, who's been on the rise for a while, but I mean, and it'd be too harsh to assess Ty Gallup 3 weeks ago, but you weren't sure he was going to have any impact as a 3 or 4 gamer, but now after 6 games, it looks like he's a game changer as well. So I think it'd be exceedingly satisfying. And Chris Fagan's brother Grant coached Clarence to a premiership on the weekend as well. So it's been running in the family at the moment. Plenty of success around the traps.
And the 2 big stories for both teams, which both will be using motivation for, is obviously Max Holmes and the injuries that he went through and never play in those grand finals and get the flag, and then obviously Oscar McInerney and Darcy Gardner for the Brisbane Lions. So they'll be both got motivation to go and do it, and I'm sure both coaches will draw on that somewhat.
So many narratives, and it's fascinating that it's probably the 2 best teams of the last 30 years, arguably. You could throw Hawthorn in there maybe, but
what's the stat? I think Brisbane, if they play in a grand final, they play in at least 3 in a row. And then if they win, they always go back to the grand final.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Lynchy, before we get you out of here, I don't know if you're aware that our man Rocky's he's had a bit of a premonition, a bit of a dream that Zach Bailey's going to come out and kick 5 goals. Has anything come to you over the last few days?
Well, that mean he'd probably be the Norm Smith medalist, I would have thought. So you could go Bailey to get the Norm Smith medal, Bailey Smith or Zach Bailey.
Yep.
2 game breakers would be huge. You know what I'm going for a Norm Smith medal pick? Will Ashcroft. Tipped him last year. He could back up again. He's playing some exceedingly good footy. He's just getting better and better. So he's very much going to be in the mix. But I could see Brisbane winning this. It'd be a huge turnaround in form from 3 weeks ago, but I could see him win.
Brisbane's your tip. Rocky, that's your tip?
Yeah, Brisbane by 27. Zach Bailey, Charlie Cameron.
27?
27 points, Lynch.
Why 27?
Well, I'm not sure. I've plucked it.
That wasn't even in the dream.
No, well, I dreamt that they just dominated, and they got to a point where the game was so far in their favour, but they just kept missing these goals, and then it was Zach that straightened them up.
I would love a first point market, because you could get on about 10 Brisbane Lions.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Well, that might do us for this week and for this year. This is going to be our final show for 2025. So I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Lynchy. Thank you, Rocky, for joining us every single week. It's been a joy. Always have a lot of fun coming in here and talking to you blokes. And big thank you to you as well, Jack, for jumping in halfway through the year.
No worries.
Things changed, but hopefully we get renewed for 2026. And hope you enjoy the grand final.
Well done, Jack. It's a credit to you, Jack, to want to actually come on an AFL podcast when you're an Essendon supporter. I mean, I reckon it's courageous, and it's a credit to you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. You haven't made it easy for me, obviously.
We didn't even touch on that today, but the board's about to be overthrown. at Essendon apparently. So
Well, we can save it for next year, I think.
Alastair Lynch should be the coach in 2026. That's why he's in Melbourne.
Which mate are you going to
That's
throw
right.
under the bus next for the Essendon job?
Yeah, take that job. It'll be great for you.
Yeah, we all might be playing in the midfield for Essendon the way they're going.
And a shout out to our producer, Rich, who makes us look good every single week. Good on you, Rich.
Yeah.
Cheers, Rich.
All right, boys.
And you, Riz.
Well done,
Stepped
Ryan.
up as a host.
Yeah.
Big shoes
Done
to
a
fill, I know.
fantastic job.
Massive shoes to fill, some
Yeah.
might say.
Well done.
All right, boys. Enjoy the grand final. We'll be back next year.
See ya.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.